It's here! SpaceX installed the missing piece of Super Heavy Booster 9. And why is this Raptor pointing into the sky? Artemis II update and Chandrayaan is close to landing, while the Luna 25 mission ended prematurely. My name is Felix, welcome to What About It, let's dive right in. Starship updates. Glad to have you back at Starbase. Only a few days have passed since our last episode, yet it's incredible how much new information I have for you. So without further ado, let's just jump right into the action. Today we start at the notably vacant orbital segment of the launch complex. A mere 4 months ago, history was made when the most powerful rocket ever designed soared past this very tower. Much to the dismay of SpaceX's engineers, it also cleared all the concrete under the launch mount, carving out an impressive crater. The initial estimate of just 2 months to get everything in perfect shape was slightly optimistic. However, adjusting for Elon time, a 4-month turnaround remains incredibly impressive. As finishing touches were underway, SpaceX crews began the task of tidying up the base of the launch table. Such activities typically suggest one event, another water deflection test. Our suspicions gained even more traction when MOVAC trucks refilled the water system. Come the evening of August 19th, with the launch pad cleared of personnel, the deflector roared to life, blasting water everywhere in the middle of the night. The sheer power of all this water is intimidating, and this test will never get boring. There's been some speculation within the space community suggesting that this test included the newly mounted third water tank. That is nearly impossible though, mainly because it is yet to be connected to the water system. Most likely the objective of this test was to evaluate the performance of the new deluge startup sequence. After all, this is a brand new system, so it's not surprising that it might need a few tweaks, as not everything can be predicted with computer simulations. Overall, the launch pad is gearing up to welcome another behemoth of an orbital rocket in the not so distant future. Let's now stroll down Highway 4, where our first pit stop is the gigantic high bay. Within its confines, work on the Ship 29 prototype persists. Just a few days ago, this prototype was rolled out, repositioned, and rolled back. This allowed workers to begin the process of installing the aft flaps. Adjacent to it stands Ship 30. As touched upon in our last episode, the assembly of this prototype is progressing at an accelerated pace. On August 18th, its main construction was completed. That very night witnessed the prototype being hoisted by the high bay crane, aligning it with the yet-to-be-attached aft section. Though there is considerably more work ahead before this prototype undergoes any tests, SpaceX can now start working on welding yet another Starship. Shift your gaze slightly and you'll be captivated by today's main star, the awe-inspiring Super Heavy Booster 9. Not too long ago, this prototype transitioned to the Mega Bay for the final integration of the hot staging hardware, and its recent developments are nothing short of riveting. On the 16th of August, a fresh hot staging ring emerged within the ring yard, different from any we've observed previously. This one was beefed up with a shielded dome in the middle. Later, it was rolled to the Mega Bay. Now, let me backtrack a bit on the subject and remind you why SpaceX switched to hot staging in the first place. Originally, the Starship separation mechanism was incredibly simple. The concept centered on 3 clamps, serving as the sole connectors between the booster and the ship. As the rocket approached the separation phase during its flight, these clamps would disengage. The rocket would then incline slightly, relying on natural forces to separate the ship from the booster. Despite the elegance in this simplicity, this method had its pitfalls. Firstly, it necessitated shutting down the Super Heavy's Raptor engines for a few seconds. In spaceflight, every second counts. Pausing thrust even briefly means gravity goes unopposed, leading to waste of the precious energy already invested in driving the rocket up faster. That energy ideally should be channeled to lifting additional cargo into space. In simple words, with normal separation, Starship is less efficient. Never stop thrusting, as Elon said. But there is a secondary concern, the phenomenon of ullage. Starship uses what's called an autogenous pressurization system. It reroutes the heated gaseous propellant back to the fuel tanks where it occupies the void space, creating pressure that allows the fuel to flow. It also ensures that the engines won't create vacuum in the tanks, which could be disastrous. Shutting down the engines would also disrupt the remaining propellant in the tanks. Without thrust, the fuel would start sloshing around, making it nearly impossible to relight the engines for a boost-back burn without special ullage thrusters. Considering these risks, it's easy to understand why SpaceX wants to maintain the Super Heavy's engines active as long as possible. All these issues can be solved with hot staging. The idea here is to deactivate only some of the engines, keeping the central 3 Raptors operational, albeit at reduced thrust. It still uses clamps to hold and release the ship, but instead of hoping that the forces align just right, the ship ignites its engines while still being attached to the booster, basically forcing separation. To achieve this, there needs to be an outlet for the exhaust gases. Otherwise, the whole rocket would just blow up even if the clamps were released before engine ignition on the upper stage. This necessity birthed SpaceX's unique ring design. Given that the Raptors can essentially function like massive blowtorches, added protection becomes essential. We can see this protection installed in the newly shown ring. Once this part was transported to the megabay, it was positioned atop Booster 9. As this is a rather huge milestone, SpaceX teased us with some remarkable shots, both pre and post installation. Talking about taking a really unique work break. So this ring is basically one massive stringer, so I wouldn't worry about its structural stability, not to mention that it passed the test at Massey's Can Crusher. Thanks to these photos, our 3D graphics maestros Elliot and Ove were able to recreate this ring. By analyzing the data we have, it appears that when fully assembled, the ship's sea level engines nearly brush against the upper dome with just a few centimeters to spare. This leads us to some interesting conclusions. As confirmed by Elon Musk just before the separation, the booster's engines will be deactivated, leaving only 3 Raptors operational. These engines would then be throttled down. Following this, we speculate that the trio of ship's vacuum Raptors will be ignited at a reduced thrust, ensuring the dome remains undamaged. Reusability. As soon as the ship has distanced itself sufficiently from the booster, the remaining 3 engines are then powered to maximum thrust. There is a possibility that our model isn't an ideal representation, but even factoring in a margin of error, it's possible that there isn't adequate space to start all 3 C engines during the separation. With the ring now in place, we anticipate an immediate rollout for the booster. In fact, as you're watching this, it's quite possible that Super Heavy Booster 9 is already positioned at the orbital launch mount. Up next would be a swift spin prime, followed by a static fire involving all 33 engines, then integration with Ship 25, and a speedy wet dress rehearsal. That's all that's really left to do before Starship can fly again. We might not even see the second booster static fire. Well, aside from all the FAA stuff, but that's beyond us. Given the maritime information we saw a week ago, the earliest launch window isn't until August 31st. Oh wait, that's just around the corner. Alright, yeah, August 31st. Are you optimistic about Starship taking flight before the end of September? Place your bets in the comments. Interestingly, Booster 9 isn't the sole resident of Megabay. You might think, of course, Booster 12, but there is more. On a clear August 17th, SPM transporters journeyed from the Rocket Garden to Megabay, ferrying Booster 10. Surprise, surprise! Having successfully undergone a cryogenic test, Booster 10's logical progression is to integrate its 33 Raptor engines. It's possible that the hot staging ring we spotted in the last episode might be destined for this prototype. We'll have to wait and see. Now, if you think, wow, that's a lot of stuff happening at the build site, then hold on tight. We've only just begun. SpaceX is going full ludicrous mode. I do often get asked what I need to adjust to after moving to the US from Germany. One clear answer is blackout window shutters. You can find them on every single bedroom window in Germany. So with living in Florida, the sun goes down late and gets up early, leaving me and my family without the needed rest. Finally, we got in contact with Manta Sleep, and they sent us over 3 different masks to try out. The Germans we tested the masks under the harshest conditions we could find. And here are our Y family picks. The one I would choose for a trip around the moon is the Manta Sound Mask. With razor-thin Bluetooth headphones that send me to sleep with soundtracks from Interstellar or Dune. Space junkie through and through. Oh, and don't worry about the sweating, the perforated materials ensure comfort and ventilation. My wife prefers the Manta Silk Mask. It's like sleeping naked. One silk sleep mask for tired moms. Even though she is a side sleeper and a light sleeper, now she can black out 100% without pressure. Elevate your nights, transform your days with Manta Sound, Manta Silk, or Manta Pro. Check out Manta Sleep here and make sure to use the code Felix for 10% off your order. Manta Innovations, where dreams begin. 2 weeks after lifting the final segment of the Mega Bay's 5th floor, the LR11000 crane has been reconfigured and re-erected, ready for action. The current buzz suggests that before this crane embarks on lifting the building's roof sections, it might first deal with the gantry cranes. Notably, one such crane has recently been repositioned closer to the second Mega Bay. All in all, the construction phase of this building is coming to an end. Time to shift our focus to the Star Factory and its ongoing enlargement. Last week I theorized on a couple of things. Firstly, that phases 1 and 2 would soon merge, and secondly about the possible dismantling of production tents 1 and 2. The first one played out as anticipated, with beams now linking the second Star Factory phase to the original building. Following suit with our predictions shortly after our last episode aired, the second production tent was dismantled to pave the way for Star Factory's expansion. Curiously, the first tent remains intact. It's been emptied and there's ongoing excavation work within its area. Possibly SpaceX employees are just removing some old foundations to make way for the new ones. I wouldn't expect for this tent to last more than a week. Do you remember when in the last episode I said that we shouldn't feel nostalgia towards buildings at Starbase? Here's another reason why. While it's speculative if this ties directly to Star Factory's expansion or is merely coincidental, barriers were placed around the mid-bay on August 19th. A day later, the process of its demolition started with an excavator just ripping it apart. This move isn't entirely unexpected, as its utility for SpaceX was somewhat limited. It doesn't have the space to assemble ships, so why keep it? But with that, a question arises. Could SpaceX be envisioning a third Mega Bay solely dedicated to ship production? Will it replace the mid-bay? What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Lastly, let's talk about roaring Raptor engines. A short while back, Ship 28 was transported from Massey's to the Rocket Garden, where it occupied a Raptor installation stand. On August 17th, its first engines were mounted, specifically 2 sea-level Raptors bearing serial numbers 164 and 178, along with at least one Raptor vacuum with serial number 235. It is plausible that an additional 1 or 2 Raptors have been integrated, although we don't have photos to prove it. Intriguingly, before installation, the engine's gimbal mounts were locked with a specialized block. On it, labels read S28 and B11, but calm your horses, this probably isn't the next orbital pair. More likely, this is compatibility data, indicating which minimum version of ship and booster this engine is compatible with. This shows how different all these starships actually are. Further fueling our curiosity, SpaceX recently shared a fascinating video. A static fire of a Raptor engine with the nozzle pointed towards the sky. Could this be a novel method and an evil plan to slow down Earth's rotation? Some suggested it's a water-saving tactic. No need to use it if the Raptor faces the sky. Others suspected a hot staging test, but Elon Musk quickly cut short all the conspiracy theories, explaining that it was a test of maximal gimbal deflection during a landing burn. Although perhaps not as revolutionary as some thought, it undeniably is a spectacle to watch. It's hard to imagine how much stress the gimbal mount on that engine had to take during this long duration burn. What's your prediction? How far will the next Starship launch go? Will Ship 25 execute a successful landing burn above the ocean, or will it face destruction beforehand? Please let me know your thoughts in the comments. I love reading them. And while you're at it, hit that like button, subscribe, share this video with your family and friends, and consider becoming a wise supporter. For as low as $1 per month, you get access to daily Starbase photo galleries, high-quality photos of SpaceX's progress, and countless other extras on top. No matter how much you decide to give, everyone gets the same supporter content and access. You decide what you want to give. The link to our Patreon page is in the description. Thanks to all the supporters who help fulfill dreams on our team. We can't thank you enough. You rock. On we go. Back when Boeing started struggling with the Starliner, NASA had assigned a few extra missions to SpaceX, starting with Crew 7. Merely 3 years ago, NASA lacked the capability to launch astronauts from American soil. This narrative shifted dramatically with the groundbreaking Demo 2 mission in August 2020. Through this venture, SpaceX proved that private companies can successfully send people into space and deliver them to the ISS, including a return trip. From that pivotal moment, we've witnessed 6 manned voyages to the International Space Station for the Commercial Crew program. The countdown for the 7th mission has been ticking now for some time, so let's delve deeper into the incredible people set to embark on this journey. Leading the pack as the spacecraft commander is Jasmine Mockbelly. With her introduction to NASA in 2017, combined with her 2,000 flight hours and credentials as a Marine Corps veteran, not to be confused with mariners, Jasmine is poised to ensure the safety of her crew, even though this is her space debut. Serving as the mission's pilot is Danish astronaut Andreas Mogensen. His journey in the European Astronaut Corps began in 2010. By 2015, he had already spent 10 days on the ISS during the IRIS mission. Andres is prepared to support the commander in piloting the craft. On the list are also 2 mission specialists. First, Satoshi Furukawa, representing the Japanese Space Agency. As a surgeon turned astronaut since 2001, Furukawa's prior 5-month stay on the ISS in 2011 makes him the mission's most seasoned member. Finally, Konstantin Borisov, selected as a cosmonaut in 2018, fills the last slot. This mission will be his maiden voyage into space. With the crew introduced, let's shift focus to their vehicle of choice. The Quarter will traverse the skies aboard Crew Dragon Endurance, a veteran of both the Crew 3 and Crew 5 missions. The capsule was recently moved to the Horizontal Integration Facility located at LC-39A. During this move, SpaceX has captured one of the most breathtaking shots of the capsule I've ever seen. Take a look at this. You may have noticed that it's missing its solar panels. They should be installed soon. Subsequently, Crew Dragon will be mated with Falcon 9. Following a successful static fire test, the mission will be go for launch. It's planned that on August 25th, booster B1081 will rocket the crew skywards. This maiden flight of B1081 is set to attempt a landing at Landing Zone 1 rather than a distant drone ship. I'm so looking forward to it. While this feat was previously achieved on the Axiom 2 mission, it is a first for a NASA crewed mission. For an immersive dive into the process behind actually getting to the ISS and back, check out our recent Crew Dragon deep dive video. It'll be clickable all the way at the end of today's episode. While the glory of the International Space Station remains undiminished, NASA's eyes are set on a more distant prize: the Moon, or at the very least, its orbit. This is it. NASA's mission to get back to the Moon with astronauts is in full swing. In April, the Artemis II mission's crew lineup was unveiled. Taking the helm as commander is Reed Wiseman, with Victor Glover as the pilot. Joining them are mission specialists Christina Koch and Jeremy Hansen. Their ambitious 10-day journey will include a sweeping pass by our lovely Moon. While some critics question the point of such an endeavor, without a ready lunar lander and an upgraded SLS Block 1B, it's the most we can do under the current constraints. By July, images of 3 Orion capsules in development at Lockheed Martin emerged. Later in the month, NASA undertook a launch countdown simulation and the crew familiarized themselves with their splashdown recovery team. On August 18th, the crew had the privilege of actually spending some time with the very capsule slated to carry them on their Luna flyby. Currently, the mission's liftoff is scheduled for November 2024, however this hinges on everything playing out without a hitch, and there is a lengthy checklist still awaiting completion. On August 17th, Mobile Launcher 1 arrived at LC-39B, the same pad that was used to launch Artemis I. Over the coming months, teams will ensure that every connection is leak-free for the subsequent launch. Concurrently, September will witness the Orion crew module's mating with its service module, while the booster segments will be moved to Kennedy Space Center in preparation for stacking. Fast forward to November, the core stage is scheduled to journey from Louisiana to Florida. In 2024, April is when the real action will start popping up, as the core stage will be integrated with the boosters, followed by the addition of the interim cryogenic propulsion stage in May. Depending on Orion's construction timeline, SLS will undergo a wet dress rehearsal with or without the spacecraft. During Artemis I, this phase represented substantial changes, but a new fueling technique and system enhancements both on the ground side and on the rocket promise a smoother test campaign. While November 2024 remains the anticipated launch date, potential setbacks might nudge this timeline by several weeks or months. Still, regardless of what's your opinion on SLS, you have to admit that going to the moon for the first time since 1972 is incredibly cool. Staying with lunar orbiters, I have exciting updates for you regarding two incredible missions, Chandrayaan 3 and Luna 25. After executing 5 orbital adjustment maneuvers, India's lander charted its course to the moon. A brief thrust later, the spacecraft secured a steady orbit around our celestial neighbor. As preparations were underway for the lander's detachment from the landing module, it snapped some breathtaking images of the moon's surface. Subsequently, the spacecraft underwent a sequence of another 5 precise maneuvers, settling it into an almost circular orbit of 163 by 153 kilometers or 101 by 95 miles. Come August 17th, the lander was separated from the propulsion module. Merely 24 hours later, a subsequent maneuver lowered its periapsis, its orbit's closest point to the moon, to only 113 kilometers or 70 miles. 2 days later, yet another firing positioned Chandrayaan 3 into its pre-landing trajectory, with a periapsis of just 25 kilometers or 15.5 miles. Currently, ISRO's engineers are diligently checking the spacecraft's condition. Once all systems receive a green light, a powered descent is set for August 23rd, shortly after this video is released. Yes! I hope that India achieves a successful landing this time around. Fingers crossed for ISRO. Meanwhile, Russia's Luna 25 is another contender in this lunar race, or should I say, was a contender. While we dove into the specifics of this mission in a prior episode, it essentially boils down to echoing the accomplishments of the Luna 24 mission from 1976. At least that was the initial intent. Post its triumphant launch on August 10th, updates from official channels were scarce. Although we lacked third-party verification of the spacecraft's presence in orbit, Luna 25 reportedly executed an orbit adjustment on August 12th, followed by another one 3 days later. August 15th brought the mission's inaugural images from space, soon accompanied by the first visuals of the moon's surface. So far, so good. Having settled into an elliptical orbit of 91 by 112 kilometers or 56.5 by 69 miles, the mission's prospects appeared bright. However, on August 19th, Roscosmos announced that the pre-landing burn failed and the agency lost communication with the spacecraft. Whispers soon emerged suggesting that an engineering oversight led to the deorbit engine operating significantly longer than intended. Basically, it kicked itself out of orbit. This miscalculation culminated in a touchdown, just not in one piece. Confirmed on August 20th by Roscosmos, Luna 25 met a premature end, crashing into the silver globe, thereby terminating its mission. I could say that I'm really sorry and that space is hard, but in the end only the best of the best managed to stick the landing. Better luck next time. That's it for today. Remember to smash that like button, subscribe for more awesome content. This is what fuels the algorithm and helps us immensely. Check out our epic shirts in your favorite Space Nerd store. A link is in the description. And if you want to get even smarter about space and rockets, watch this video next to continue your journey. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next episode. The performance. Pending, pending, pending. Fundaments, foundations, and pick that. Or is it a